You mentioned the poppy sellers. Let's just have a look at some volunteers selling poppies on Remembrance Day weekend at London's Victoria Station who were swamped by a pro-Palestinian protest and had to move their stand. Let's have a quick look. You can see they have to keep moving as the protest grows and find a new spot. Police apparently later intervened as the volunteers who were raising funds for a veterans charity. I mean, Darren, it really just paints such a grim picture of how things are in the UK. I'd argue, Darren, it is far worse there than it is here in Australia or the US. Your so-called conservatives are the weakest of the lot. You were just talking about what's happening in the Tories. This is happening after more than a decade of Tory rule, where you saw Boris win that landslide, speaking like a conservative, but then even he governed like he was in the Labor Party, or some sort of mad green element of the Labor Party, and it hasn't got much better since.
Absolutely not. I mean, Britain is the canary in the coal mine, Rita, on this, I'm afraid to say. And this is a damning indictment of the state of Britain today. And, you know, we mentioned how bad it is elsewhere. I mean, what we saw outside of the Sydney Opera House, for example, with the blatant and open anti-Semitism. But I think you're right. What we see here is it's just so widespread in Britain. We've been accepting net migration figures of over 600,000 people net a year. That's, you know, thanks to idiots like Tony Blair and David Cameron. But you're totally right to say that 13 years the Conservatives have been in power. It's not just been David Cameron. We've accepted a load of people into the country who, frankly, don't share our values and would quite like us to be another country altogether. I mean, I'm reminded of a Policy Exchange, a think tank report back in 2016, a while ago now, so I imagine it's even worse, in which it found that 40% of British Muslims were said to be supportive of aspects of Sharia law in place of British law. Now, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure out that that says something about the multiculturalism project that the political and media class have waxed lyrical about being an unmitigated success story that has actually been an unmitigated disaster for Britain and for the Western world. There was also a veteran, Rita, and it broke my heart. I felt really angry seeing this story. There was a veteran called Jim Henderson, Scottish bloke, and he described being kicked and punched in his back and side as he fought to get the money he'd been collecting for the poppy appeal out of Edinburgh's Waverley Station, a major train station in Britain. And eventually the station staff had to step in and rescue him. That was during a Palestinian occupation. If you ask me, it's a damn disgrace. And now we found ourselves in the position where these people think they're above the law. And that's what Suella Braverman was trying to address. Those are the very issues that she was speaking of that are the cause of two-tier policing, where these people on our streets think that they are totally above the law. It simply does not apply to them. Now, of course, there are other videos that we've seen as well, that two-tier policing being totally evident in those. We had right-wing activists taken to the street, but I actually think a lot of those right-wing activists, Rita, felt compelled to defend the cenotaph, which is perhaps, for those who don't know, the nation's, it's our symbol, it's where we go to pay our respects, our national monument of remembrance, where it's our focus for that day of remembrance. And that's all we wanted, Rita. We just wanted one weekend to remember those young boys and men who died so that Britain could be free, and the rest of Europe, it has to be said. And they couldn't even give us that, Rita. I don't think these protests should have been allowed to go ahead, frankly. I think it was an affront to everything we hold dear.
And yeah, those war monuments being vandalised on Remembrance Day, it really is a grim set of circumstances in the UK, and you do wonder what's going to happen next.
Have you got what it takes to be a reasoned presenter? Well, send us a short clip of yourself to join@reasoned.uk, and we might be seeing you on this very channel very soon indeed.